When Ling Zun arrived at Feian village with the little girl on his back, he saw a group of people standing at the entrance of the village, all of them looking suspicious. Seeing Ling Zun coming back, they all smiled and greeted him. From the village chief Xiao Tanren's mouth, I learned that the battle that happened dozens of miles away just now was so powerful that it was like a landslide and tsunami, which shocked all the villagers in Feian village. Fortunately, the distance is very far, and it did not affect Feian village. What happened there? Xiao Tanren asked worriedly. Beast chaos. Ling Zun thought about it for a while, but didn't tell the truth. The duel between the two Spirit Sea Realm powerhouses was too terrifying, so it would be better not to let those villagers know about it. Speaking of this, Ling Zun's heart moved, and he quickly said, "Village chief, when I returned, I saw that many beasts in the forest had been killed. This is a rare unexpected harvest." Xiao Tanren's eyes lit up. This is good news. If you can collect enough animal meat, the villagers will have a good time in the future. If you can collect the fur and bones of some beasts, you can even exchange a lot of money. Without hesitation, Xiao Tanren hurriedly set off towards the dozen or so strong villagers. Busy, everyone forgot to ask where the little girl on Ling Zun's back came from. When he got home, Ling Zun put the little girl on his bed, covered the quilt, and took a hot towel to help the little girl wipe the dust off her face. When I saw the little girl's skin as white as suet jade, as well as the beautiful and picturesque face with a peaceful atmosphere, Ling Zun couldn't help but stay for a while. This looks so beautiful. This is only 5 or 6 years old, but the beauty described by the outline of the 5 senses is like a clear lotus in the misty rain, with a graceful aura that eclipses all things in the world. With Ling Zun's mind, he couldn't help being stunned for a while, and after a while he murmured, "I was so beautiful when I was a child, but when I grow up, it's still good." I'm afraid she is also a peerless beauty at the level of harming the country and the people. The origin of this little girl is very mysterious. Not like a resident of the Xiao Empire at all. This can be seen from the obscure words she uttered and the animal skin skirt she wears. The most important thing is that even though the little girl is only 5 or 6 years old, there is an extremely powerful force hidden in her small and delicate body. Ling Zun would never forget that in the forest, before he had time to react, he was carried by the little girl like a chicken. How could this be something an ordinary little girl could do? In addition, although the battle just now happened extremely abruptly, Ling Zun vaguely felt that the wizard brute didn't seem to be killing himself, but the little girl. Why would a strong man with spiritual sea realm cultivation base deal with such a little girl? This is also a mystery that makes Ling Zun puzzled. In short, in Ling Zun's eyes at this moment, this little girl who is sleeping now must have many secrets hidden on her body. Forget it, it doesn't matter to me what I want to do. Ling Zun shook his head, turned and walked out of the room, into the kitchen. The little girl had a dream. In the dream, she was running wildly, and there was a sound of earth-shattering fighting behind her, and there was a painful roar from time to time. She was full of grief, helplessness, and hesitation. She didn't know where she was going to escape, but she knew that if she stopped, she might be taken away by death. After escaping for an unknown period of time, the next girl seemed to notice something, suddenly turned her head, and immediately saw a scene that made her almost collapse. A black bear with a height of several dozen feet fell to the ground with a bang, and never stood up again. On the opposite side, stood a burly and muscular man with golden light all over his body. Why is this happening? There was an unspeakable pain in the little girl's heart, and she couldn't help crying out in grief. But at this moment, she felt that a palm wiped away her tears, and the warmth from that palm was very much like a mother's embrace, which made her terrified and mourning mood become calm. She wanted to turn her head to see who it was. At this moment, the dream woke up. The little girl opened her eyes and saw a beautiful face, with a pair of clear black eyes showing a touch of pity and warmth. She remembered the face and the smell on this person. It was an aura that made her soul feel happy and comfortable. After killing the magma wolf that day, she actually smelled this breath, but it was not as clear as now. "You're awake." Lin Xun watched the little girl wake up and couldn't help but smile, picked up the linger ice porridge cooked next to her, and said, "Let's have something to eat first." The little girl stared at Lin Xun in a daze, and then at the steaming porridge in his hand with a fragrant smell, and suddenly felt that she was indeed hungry. She got up and started swallowing while holding the bowl. In the blink of an eye, she drank everything. The little girl raised her head and looked at Lin Xun with bright and dark crescent eyes. "More?" Lin Xun was startled, and helped her to serve another bowl. The little girl was not polite, and wiped out another bowl like a cloud of wind. Lin Xun's eyes widened immediately. This little girl doesn't look big, but she can eat so much. But it's good to eat. At least it proves that the little girl's body is fine. Lin Xun directly brought the pot in, watching the little girl eat bowl after bowl of porridge. The smile on the corner of his lips solidified a little. This is too edible, right? It didn't take long for the whole pot of linger porridge to be wiped out. The little girl licked her lips with a sigh of relief, looked at Lin Xun, and babbled. Lin Xun couldn't understand either, so he could only look at this beautiful snack and judge from her expression what she wanted to express. "Have a good rest." "No thanks." Lin Xun packed up the dishes, turned and walked out of the house, looking at the sky where the twilight fell. But he was a little worried. He didn't know who the parents of this little girl were. If she follows her in the future, the food at home will not be enough. But soon, Xiaotanren brought good news to Lin Xun. When night was about to fall, Xiaotan and his party finally returned, and at the same time they brought back a bunch of gigantic beasts. Among them are snow-spotted leopards, ivy pythons, bloodthorn wild boars, and even a rather iron-beaked mountain pheasant. There were more than 10 heads, and they were moved into the courtyard where Lin Xun lived by a group of strong villagers sweating profusely. Xiaotanren's excitement was beyond words, high-spirited, and before Lin Xun asked, he waved his hand and said, "You see what you need, even if you take it. We have to go again while the night is dark." I didn't expect to be able to pick it up this time. With so many prey, God's eyes are open. Before the words fell, Xiaotanren took the group and left happily. Seeing their eagerness, it was obvious that they were planning to make a big fight. Lin Xun was dumbfounded for a while, and hurried to the door. He saw not only Xiaotanren and the others, but also the women and children in the village followed, and left the village with torches. If it wasn't for a little girl to take care of, Lin Xun couldn't help but follow him. Returning to the yard, Lin Xun was also overjoyed when he saw the beasts that had suffered and died due to unwarranted disasters, and finally no longer had to worry about food. For the next few days, the villagers ran back and forth between the old forest in the deep mountains and Feian village like a festival, and brought back a head of prey. However, most of them are beasts, and there are relatively few beasts. Even so, the bodies of these beasts were piled up like a mountain, standing in the courtyard of Lin Xun's house, which was quite spectacular. As for the beasts, Lin Xun couldn't use them, and they were all sent to every household in the village by Xiaotanren. At the same time, Xiaotanren and the other villagers also knew the existence of the little girl and didn't say anything about it, but every time they saw the beautiful and almost perfect face of the little girl, every villager was shocked. A feeling of even Xiaotanren is no exception. As for the existence of those little brats, seeing the little girl's eyes are straight, stupid, and extremely funny. They originally planned to play with the little girl, but they all flinched, as if they did not dare to desecrate this beauty. Lin Xun looked funny, but he had a headache, and sometimes the beauty was too much, and it would be difficult for people to approach. In the end, Lin Xun asked the Aunt Giao in the village to help and made an animal skin cloak with a hat for the little girl, covering the beautiful face, which made Lin Xun feel a lot more at ease. The only thing that made Lin Xun a little bit puzzled was that the little girl seemed very withdrawn, and she never wanted to contact other people except for being close to herself. And Lin Xun noticed that the little girl looked at others with seemingly calm eyes, but it was always filled with indifference and alienation. This indifference and alienation disappears only when facing oneself. Why is this happening? Even Lin Xun didn't know. But after a few days of contact, Lin Xun already knew the little girl's name, Ioi, summer solstice, a very special name. In addition, the origin of the little girl is unknown. There is no way, the language is blocked, and there is no way to communicate. But to Lin Xun's surprise, in just a few days, Xia's already understood what he was talking about, and even knew how to say some simple words. This undoubtedly proves that under the beautiful face of the little girl, there is not inferior to her beautiful intelligence and amazing learning ability. Lin Xun was originally an orphan, but now there is another Xia Solstice around him who is also alone, and he has long regarded her as a younger sister in his heart. Until 3 days passed. The villagers went to the deep mountains and old forests and found that they could no longer find any prey, and this stopped this vigorous sweeping operation. At this time, the number of beast corpses piled up in Lin Xun's house had reached nearly 30. In the past few days, Lin Xun has not been idle, and spent almost all of his time dissecting the corpses of the beasts. There is no way. After a long time, the corpses of these beasts will stink, and the loss will be great. Xia, on the other hand, has been sitting quietly on the side, looking at Lin Xun's busy figure, as if in the world in her eyes, only Lin Xun is alone.